Yeah, so the Omega candle is a 100K green candle on the daily, and this would happen after a God candle, which is 10K. So
Okay.
the God candle has been talked about in trading circles for some time, but I figure with the advent of the ETFs and this massive change in the macroeconomic landscape, it's time for a bigger candle to measure. And I like the term Omega because you can quantify it. Like a 2 Omega day would be a 200K candle, or a 3 Omega, kind of like you measure earthquakes on the Richter scale, right? That's like a magnitude 6, right? So I think we both agree that 1 million is an inevitability for Bitcoin, just simply because we're printing and have printed so much money. Debt is through the roof. So we're going to hit some point at which either they lower the rates or the money dies. But I mean, both are going to mean Bitcoin's going to go up. So it doesn't really matter. It's an eventuality because the Bitcoin price, the Bitcoin fiat price, is a factor of fiat clown world. And there is no max for fiat clown world. There's just burr. So a million, 10 million, we see it all the time. If you look at like if you look at the Turkish lira charts, Turkish lira, TRY, USDT, they already almost have Omega candles there. So you have like days where it goes up 80,000 Turkish lira or 90,000 Turkish lira. So it's not really impossible because the money is broken. So anything can happen. Now, my thesis is that we're going to see it before the halving, which is in the next 2 months or so. I talked to someone on Twitter and they said, put a date. So I said, okay, I said days to weeks, it'll happen. So this means we'll shoot up over the course of weeks, at least 10 omegas to reach 1 million, right? So I just said, okay, well, let's just say ETF approval date. So that would mean 7 weeks after that. So sometime late February. But I think that's not going to hit now because of all the grayscale selling. But I still think when it starts, it's just going to ramp up really quickly and just go vertical. And this is because of a number of effects at play. You have a multiplier effect. Bank of America had it in a previous report that it was 118 times. So every dollar that goes into Bitcoin boosts the market cap by $118. And then you have the Veblen effect, which is as something becomes more valuable, people want more of it. And we see this from time and time again. When Bitcoin is at all-time high or close to all-time highs, people start calling you and say, hey, Walker, well, tell me about this Bitcoin thing and how do I get some? But they never will call you up when Bitcoin's at 15K. Like, Walker, it just tanked to 15K. How do I get some? Not possible, right? So yeah, when we start going up to like 100K, that's when people start going crazy. At 200K, they go even crazier. And then somewhere between 250 to 500 is the Veblen threshold where we kind of cross into gold AUM. And at that point, it's just, you don't even need to think about it anymore. You just need Bitcoin because it's the global reserve asset. It's the new gold. And I think that will demonetize gold and gold will go down, but it'll keep going up. And as it keeps going up, you have price insensitive buyers because the shrimps, the plebs, whatever, they're always stacking, always DCAing. Then you have big anchoring entities like MicroStrategy and Tether that will also keep buying because they've already decided that we're going to allocate a portion of our profits to buy Bitcoin. And then you have nation states also. So it just probably won't come down once it hits that threshold and it'll just keep going up. So 1 million will happen very quickly. And the Max Payne theory or the chaos theory is that the most painful outcome for the most number of people and the most chaotic outcome is probably what's going to happen. So that means it's just going to shoot up and to hit that 1 million mark. And a lot of people will miss that boat. Like we talked about earlier, it won't be transformative for a lot of these countries anymore because you're ready. When you're accumulating for your reserves, you're taking what little fiat you have or gold you have and converting it to Bitcoin at $1 million per BTC. It's not going to change much. So that's the most painful outcome, I think, for that group. But yeah, all of these effects, you have the ETF demand, which is thousands of coins a day, and then the halving coming up in less than 3 months, like what, 8 weeks now?
Hmm.
That's going to have the supply produced to 450 a day. So you're already multiples of times over the production. And yes, people like to say some will sell, but those that sell will probably end up buying in higher because it just keeps going up. So all of this put together means, in my view, 1 million candle in a very short time frame once it starts picking up on the upward trajectory.
I appreciate the context and the explanation there. And when I first saw you make that prediction, I was like, honestly, that like seems pretty reasonable, because I think that one of the things that people miss, even a lot of Bitcoiners, is even though they are far down the rabbit hole and they, maybe they've changed their personal unit of account to Bitcoin, they still have a tendency, which is natural, to think in terms of the current paradigm, to measure things in terms of the current system. And the Turkish lira example is a great one. Like Bitcoin's already hit all-time highs again in TRY terms. That already happened months ago. When your measuring stick is fiat, it is going to be a flawed measurement. So if you're trying to think, you think $100,000, $1 million per Bitcoin sounds outlandish, you are really just measuring with the wrong stick. It's, something that Jeff Booth says often is it's not Bitcoin being repriced. It's Bitcoin doing the repricing. Yep. Everything else is trending to zero in terms of Bitcoin. And when you flip that equation to start looking at it that way, $1 million of Bitcoin doesn't sound all that unreasonable when you consider all of the confluence of factors that you mentioned. Not only do you have all the new ETF inflows that'll be coming and are coming, not only do you have the halving coming, which is a massive supply shock, but you have the nation states, you have the psychopathic holders of last resort who are just DCAing every single day a little. Yep. And maybe it's a few bucks, maybe it's $100, maybe it's 1,000, but they're just taking that away, putting it in cold storage, and that's out of circulation for many years. And I like to think of it in terms of the paradox of that old question, what happens when an unstoppable force hits an immovable object? And exactly. Framing it as the idea of the unstoppable force is demand, ever increasing and more voracious demand for Bitcoin. And the immovable object is Bitcoin's absolutely finite supply of 21 million. That's not moving. It is truly an immovable object floating around in cyberspace. Yeah. But demand is only becoming stronger. So what happens when that unstoppable force hits that immovable object? Well, omega, I guess, or multiple omegas.